Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the Fortinet Championship. This is my Before the Lock show where I give you ownership projections. We're going to look at weather. I'm going to actually do something a little different because we have 23 of the 25 Korn Ferry players playing in this tournament. We're going to go through those guys. I'm going to give you some education on them so you get to know them. You're going to need to know them for the rest of the season. So we're going to look at those guys a little more in depth. I'm going to give you my top value plays. And I'm going to give you my prize picks. I am 3 out of 4 for you guys, hitting 10x multipliers. So I'm going to give that to you. So if you want to hit up prize picks. All right, with that said, let's do this. Okay, so I mentioned in this, we've got 25 guys that have graduated onto the PGA from the Korn Ferry. 23 of these guys are actually in a tournament. Then you got Mito Pereira and Will Z, who technically also came off this season, but we've got to see those guys quite a bit more. We know a bit more about them. And so I also have, this is the top 15 of those guys, so the top 15 out of that 25 from points ranking. I'm also going to go through what stroke gain analysis we have on them. I'm also going to go through the tournaments that we've seen them at on the PGA. So you're going to get to know these guys a lot better, but I thought I'd just point out real quick, Stefan Jaeger, number one on the Korn Ferry, as in, from playing 33 events, he came out with the most points. So if you look at it from a FedEx Cup point ranking, he was your number one guy. Of course, Mito, who had the 3 wins, got promoted early into the PGA. You got Will Z, also who got to play in a couple tournaments on the PGA and then did well enough to then gain that temporary status. We got Dave Lipsky and Brandon Wu, who we've seen a little bit of. And then I also just noted, just so you guys know, of course, we're playing in California, at Napa Valley. Will Z is a Northern California guy. He was born and raised in San Francisco, went to school at Wake Forest. Then you got David Lipsky, who is from the Los Angeles area, born and raised. And then Brandon Wu, also from Danville, California, and also went to Stanford. So if you're just curious, there is a few of these guys. Some home cooking. Also probably played quite a bit on the POA green surface. So I just wanted to call that out. But we'll go through these guys in more detail. And then with that said, also, I will go into my prize picks. So we'll do all of that. And last, again, if you are going to try prize picks, and to give you my little bit of commercial on it, again, this is a projections-based over-under picking. So a little bit different than fantasy, but it's kind of I think really a better way to win money. If you're looking to not win the big money, but looking to, keep kind of increasing your, fantasy pot of money that you're accruing, this is a good way to do it. I've actually had weekends where I've made more in profits using prize picks over the last couple months than I have from fantasy or even betting. And again, if you use my promo code Golf Guru, they will match you up to 100%, maxed out at $100. So if you put 100 in, you're going to get 100. So use that promo code. And also, anything that I get from a spiff situation, I'm going to put into a nice little giveaway for the Masters. It'll be swag. It's going to be cash. But I'll give you my picks again. Again, I'm 3 out of 4. So hopefully we can keep that trend running. Okay, with that said, let's go jump over to Fantasy National and start to look at the value plays and also the Korn Ferry guys. Okay, so I've jumped over to Fantasy National, and just so you know, this is the tool that I use for my analysis. Again, highly recommend it. It is very focused on golf. It's been around for years, and it does a really good job for everything that I'm looking for. Everything I'm going to be talking about, again, if you are new, I do focus on DraftKings pricing, but of course you can leverage these picks and information for FanDuel, Yahoo, whatever you're doing. Okay, so typically, as I said, I focus kind of on the lower guys from 7,000 and below. So kind of filtering through the weeds. And there's quite a few guys in this tournament. But because I think we have so many players that are coming from the Korn Ferry that we don't know anything about, even myself, there's some guys that I don't know anything about. I think it makes sense. We're going to focus a bit on that so you understand those guys. There are also a lot of those guys are positioned at 7,000 and below. And then also I'm going to give you the 5 guys that are below 7,000 that I am interested in playing. A lot of the guys are not so much picked to have a chance to really win the tournament, but, hopefully like a top 20 finish, but for sure make the cut, because to get 6-6 through this weekend is going to be difficult. So with that said, the guys you see highlighted in green, of course, came off the Korn Ferry Tour on the PGA. Either they did it like Mito a few months ago, or like Will Z, or they are brand new to us and maybe have some past experience on the PGA here or there. So, of course, Mito is one of my picks at 8,000. We do have a short sample size of, of what he's done on the PGA. Of course, you can see he's got 2 missed cuts, and then he's got 3, but he's got those 2 better than top 10 finishes. But just overall, from a talent perspective, out of this field at 8 grand, where I think it's Harold Varner's, I think at 9,000. I think Mito Pierre is a better fit, a better player. He's got more talent, got way more upside. So the price tag I don't mind, but of course he is one of my picks already, so I'm not going to spend time on him. The next guy we fall to, and again, this is on model ranking, is why it's going up this way. And just so you know, what you're seeing here is a smaller model from my bigger model. This is going to be how they've done over the last 12 rounds on their birdie gains. So that could be 3 tournaments, 4 tournaments. Of course, this information too is also 12 rounds. Got no filters turned on. And then over here to the right, you're going to see recent results or tournament history. Okay, so that just give you a quick understanding of what the heck you're looking at if you are new to the show. All right, the first guy I'm following on from a value play. This is not a Corn Ferry guide. The Corn Ferry guys will be in green. The guys in gray will be my value plays. I've got 5 of them identified. I'm not going to go through all the rest of it, but I'm going to focus on the Corn Ferry guys for you. Sam Ryder. So you can see Sam has been playing pretty good golf. I think his best showing actually was at the Honda this year that I remember. Had a chance to win that, which is a tough event. You can see he's played this event. He's only made the cut, but when he did, it was a T4 back in 2014. But I just like where he's at from recent results. You can see from a birdies gained over the last 12 rounds, he's firing. Everything here that I want to see looks good from approach, ball striking again at this price tag. And he ranked 5th in my model. If you go click on Sam real quick, I can pull up some of his information. POA is not his best putting surface. You can see bent is, but it is a mix between bent and POA, so do what you want with that. If we look at kind of his last 5 rounds, he's been gaining off the tee, gaining on approach, missing a little bit all around the green, but has been gaining with the putter, and that's good to see. You can see that here illustrated also. And if we want to just click on position, where's he done some of his best? Of course, this year he had a chance to win at Corrales. He's had a 2nd at John Deere. He had a 3rd at the Barbasol. That's an alternate event. A 3rd at Puerto Rico. So, some of his best finishes have been within the last year and a half. He has, as I mentioned, a 4th place at the Safeway, which also now the Fortinet. Trying to see any California courses. So at the Farmers, he showed up also, which tough track, Torrey Pines. He had a 10th. That is on the West Coast. The Travelers I was looking at as a comp course back in 2018 at 26. And then he had the Amex, which I was looking at as a comparable course. Also, he had a 29th. That was in 2020. Anything else stand out? And then in the Amex, which was another comparable, he had a 40th in 2019. So again, these guys that I'm picking, I'm hoping that they could, of course, break the lineups and give you a top 20. But as long as if they're the last man in, if you're stacking up top a bit, maybe with like a Kevin Na and a Rahm, or Will Z and a Na or a Rahm, or, there's only maybe 10 guys up there that are above the 9,000s. You're going to have to plug in one of these guys, of course. The next guy I fall down, Bo Hoag. And again, if we look at recent results, his last couple PGA events, he had a T16 at the 3M Open. Of course, that's in Minnesota. And he missed a cut at the Wyndham. And then this is some Corn Ferry results here. Nothing, too great, but not too bad. But, from a modeling perspective over his last 12 rounds and also birdies, looks pretty good. If we click on Bo Hoag just to go get a little more information on him, he's a good putter. As you can see over the life of his career, POA is a positive putting surface. Again, around the greens where he's been struggling, but at least over his last 5 events, he has been gaining with the putter. Been gaining almost 4 strokes on approach and gaining off the tee, so that's all solid. Let's go look at some of his best finishes too. Let's see, the Sony with his best. He had a good showing this year at the Amex. Again, one of my comp courses. Good showing at the Farmers. So he's done well on the West Coast this year. So that's a good thing to see. Has played, of course, the Safeway. Had a 29th here last time. And good showing at the Genesis. Again, the California coast, a 32. Again, at the Safeway at a 44. So again, a guy could, looks good that he can make the cut and maybe crack that top 30 for us. So I like Bo Hoag. The next guy, funny enough, which I don't know if I've ever picked Cameron Piercy, but there's multiple reasons why. So, yes, he ranks 8th in my model. That's not the huge thing. His recent results, you can see, he had a T11 at John Deere, all top 40s, pretty much, you could say. And he's had a great history here. I think I don't want to say, but either last year or the year before, he was a first round leader. Also, not a bad bet for a first round leader. He does typically have good first rounds. Okay, so let's jump on Cameron Piercy to get a little more information. Putter is typically where he will struggle, but pretty solid ball striker. But you can see here, last 5 rounds, he's gained off the tee, gained almost 4 strokes on approach, gained around the green. And I've already got it pulled up. Let me click back on date just so we can kind of see some more deeper dive. So from a gaining strokes from a putter, you can see the last 3 rounds been a little tough, but he did gain at the John Deere 2 strokes. The Rocket Mortgage, which is a POA bent surface, gained almost 3 strokes, which is the same surface they'll be putting on here at Silverado. And then some of his best finishes, of course, the Safeway, as I mentioned. I think he did lead the first round that day or back in 2019. So he's had a good showing, a 7th. The AT&T Pro-Am, which Pebble Beach, which I think is a good comparable course, par 72, less than 7,200 yards. He had a 10th. And what else we got here that might help us make a case? Again, the AT&T Pro-Am, good comparable course. He had a 23 again here. So I like his history on this course, and I like the way he's been playing. So for 6,800, I typically do not recommend a Cameron Piercy, but I like him on this course. So we'll see how that all plays out. And then the last couple guys, and this is my value play, so I just want to make that. Then we're going to go over the Corn Ferry guys. Hammer and Hank Laboda. Now, I know he has recently fallen, so he had that withdrawal and then missed a couple cuts. But before that, the guy was in Fuego. Actually, was looking for him to win his first tournament. You can see birdies gained is one of the leaders on how many birdies he is gathering. Off the tee, he's been a little suspicious over his last 12 rounds. We'll go look at that a little more. I'm guessing that's what kind of got into these no cuts. But, been great with the putter, gaining strokes on the par 5s, which is 4 of them here. We need that. Good on approach. Again, he's 7,100, but again, I think 7,000, 7,100, you get those guys for the value plays. I think that's a good price for Hank Laboda. You can see POA over the life of his career is a positive. His best is bent. So combine that together and away you go. You can see this just stroke gain, just surge kind of pretty much after the spring. It's just been on the way up. So he's definitely found something in his game. Let's go take a look at what's been going on. So you can see off the tee, he's not a long hitter, but typically he's somewhat accurate. So, where he does his damage pretty much is approach end. You can see the putter was also very hot, which was getting him some of these really good results. But overall, he's a pretty decent putter. Of course, he lost strokes at the Northern Trust with the putter. Just had a bad showing at the Northern Trust period. But again, I'm not going to jump off him. I think this is a good time to strike with Shank, or not Shank, I'm sorry, I put the two together. But with Hammer and Hank Laboda. So, give him a look. See, let's just go take a look at some of his best finishes. So Rocket Mortgage, this year he had that 4th. Again, I think it's the best comp course that I can think of. From the actual putting surface, from an old traditional course, from the trees, somewhat narrow fairways. Greens are a little smaller at the Detroit Country Club, but I still think to go in the Travelers I like is a comp course. Let's see what else. We got the Amex back in 2020 at a 17th. Another one of my comparable courses. Farmers, he had a 29th in his past. And then a couple decent finishes at the AT&T Pro-Am. Again, the Travelers. So everything I see, I like Hank Laboda here. And then my last guy, kind of fitting into that plotters, is Ryan Armour. Again, 13th in my model. The birdies, a little lackluster. You can see when we actually played a couple of Corn Ferry events. But, he had that T6 at the 3M Open, the Barbasol at a T5. He's missed a cut every time here, so that is definitely a reason to be a little nervous. But I like kind of where his recent form is. Let's go take a look at, so he's gaining off the tee, gaining on approach, and gaining with the putter. Around the green, it's been a little suspect. The Wyndham, he just kind of struggled everywhere except for off the tee. Let's go see where he's had some of his best finishes. So he won Sanderson Farms, which, if you know CC of Jackson, it's a longer course, which is very interesting because you just don't think of, I think it's around 7,400 yards off the top of my head. You don't think of Ryan Armour winning there, but I think it's the same thing. If you hit the fairways and you're sticking it and you're making putts, one of his best finishes, Rocket Mortgage again, an amazing comparable course tournament, I think, again. Travelers, he's won, or not won, I'm sorry, had a 6. He had the Palmetto recently at an 8th. Let me see what else here. AT&T, that's a long time ago, so we don't have to really worry about that. The Amex this year, 2021, a 16th. So the AT&T Pro-Am, pretty recent, 2018. So again, he's done pretty good on the West Coast. I like Ryan Armour. Like I said, I think, it's a kind of a combination of the guys that can bomb it, hit the short wedges in, and then you got the guys that are hitting fairways and can also hit, maybe 9-iron, 8-iron, still a scoring club in. So there you go. Okay, let's now just focus on the Korn Ferry guys. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time on all these guys, but there's some guys I'm going to, mention that I think are very, someone that you might want to play from a DraftKings perspective. So I already said Mito's one of my top 15 picks, so nothing to really discuss there. The next guy, again, from a model ranking, you get this Nick Harding, who is definitely a pure Korn Ferry play. We can kind of see his results here on the Korn Ferry. 3 out of 5. I don't think there's anything great there. Let's just go click on Nick and see what information. Like I said, some of these guys are going to have more information or not. So you can see POA is a positive putting surface for him. That's going to be PGA tournaments that he's played that we'd have that information. So he did play at the Waste Management. He did play at the Sony. This is all back start of the year. And you can see pretty solid results, a 14th and 42nd. So that is PGA events. And we'll just scroll down to see any other PGA events he's played in. So played the U.S. Open, miscut in 2019. The Farmers, 2019, miscut. Again, I'm guessing he had some kind of exemptions that he got into these. Shriners, it was a miscut. 2018, he did play the John Deere, the Travelers, the John Deere. So I'm guessing maybe it could be local, have some ties there. But yeah, just so you know, he's got, so the short of what you get out of that is he's got some PGA experience. The last 2 PGA events, he's made the cut. His recent form on the Korn Ferry, I'm not super excited about with that. Missed 3 cuts out of, so, I would put him as maybe like a 5 or 6 out of a 10 that I'd want to play. I do like Taylor Pendrith. This guy kind of fits what you want for this course. If you're going with the Bombers, he is elite off the tee. I think he averages around 330 yards off the tee. You can see, had pretty good Korn Ferry results. Nothing ever played here. Let's go click on Taylor, get a little more information on him. The only surface that's pulling up is bent, so I'm guessing whatever tournaments he played on were bent greens, and you can see he did well with the putter. And the guy does putt, pretty well. So he, pretty rare that guys that can bomb it, but it's the approach. You can see where he's had some struggles. The U.S. Open he played. Let's just go see. Click on this. Let's go just take a gander on how he did. How bad he. So he shot a 75 and a 72. That's why I was just curious to see what kind of results he actually had. All right, let's go back here. All right, so some of his best finishes on the Korn Ferry would have been in 2020. Had a couple seconds. Don't look like he's actually won an event, even on the Korn Ferry, but he did enough from a point standpoint. All right, let's go back to dates. So you have the Barbasol. He had an 11th, an alternate PGA event. I mentioned the miscut at this U.S. Open, but he actually had a 23rd. Let me go see where that was at. So that was at Wingfoot, the year that, of course, Bryson won, and you had Wolf kind of challenging. And one time you had even Captain America was up there for, I think, Thursday, Friday. I think he fell apart a little bit on Saturday, Patrick Reed. Let's go see what he shot here. So 71, 74, 75, and a 70. So that's, again, to have a pretty good showing at that's a tough course. But again, distance would have helped you there. I'm just going to scroll down. I want to see the other PGA events. Canadian Open, that's a long time. He is a Canadian, by the way. So he played in the Canadian way back in 2014. We already talked about the U.S. Open, and then again he played in the Canadian Open 2015. Anyway, so I would give Taylor Pendrith if you want, in my opinion. I will be sprinkling him in some lineups for DraftKings from a large GPP play, not from a cash game or anything like that. If you're playing like heads up or a small field, I don't think I'd probably go with him, but you can see projected ownership's already up at 11% on him. Alex Smalley, we actually saw recently, I think it was the John Deere he showed up at, or the Wyndham. I can't remember. He had a sponsor exemption. But another guy's got a little bit of PGA experience. You can see pretty decent, a T15, a T4, a T48, his last Corn Ferry events. My model's got him at 44 again, but that's polling. You got to remember, that's just pulling PGA data. So if they had 4 or 5 starts on the PGA, it's not pulling Corn Ferry data. You can see when he has played on the PGA, Bermuda's his best surface. And then let's go take a look. So I mentioned, 2 pretty decent showings, not hard courses by any stretch, but either is Silverado, so a 29th and 47th. He's played Corrales a couple times. He's done pretty well, top 25. He's actually played, and then Waste Management last year, he missed the cut. That would be, TPC Scottsdale? Yeah, kind of blinking there for a minute. So anyways, I mean, again, Alex Smalley, I think is someone that you could consider. You see his ownership's like at 3%. I'd give him like a 6 or 7 ranking if I was going to play. Grayson Sigg, you see he won the Boise Open not too long ago. Miscut at the championship, but yeah, overall pretty good. Let's go take a look at some of his information, what we got. Looks like the putter is an issue. Again, that's when he's played on the PGA Tour. So he's played the Barbasol. He actually gained strokes with the putter. And that is actually, I was thinking of the Barracuda Keen Trace. That is not the course I was thinking of. But anyways, he's played Valero, which, tough track, old kind of school. That's TPC San Antonio, the AT&T Oaks course. Corrales. He's also won in Knoxville. So he had a couple wins this year on the Corn Ferry. So that's interesting. Let's do that a different way. So 2 wins on the Corn Ferry, had a second at the Corn Ferry Tour Championship last year. And then let's scroll down. So he's played the RSM back in 2017. He made the cut. He made the cut at Barbasol, made the cut at Valero, made the cut at the U.S. Open, missed cut back in 2020, and missed cut this. So, I mean, the guy is, when he has had his chances on the PGA, what was that, 3 out of 5? He's made the cut. So Grayson Sigg, I'd give him like a 7 or 8 if I was going to play one of these Corn Ferry guys. David Skins, let's see what he's done. So he won the Pinnacle Bank recently. And, again, this is information back when he has played back. It looks like in the summer he got to play. Model ranks got him at a 56. Let's go see, again, Bermuda putting surface. And let me just see what events he's actually... So he had a win mid-August, and then he had a win a second in July on the Corn Ferry. Had a 4th back in May. So some decent recent form. And then what has he played? Sanderson Farms way back in 2017. That's a tough track. He made the cut. And then missed cut, but these are all quite a long time ago. This had to be, wow, must have been like a 14-year-old. Definitely younger. Back in 2013. So again, not a ton of information on David Skins, but again, a little bit more than you knew about him before. Michael Thompson should not be on here. I don't know why. Maybe I was looking at him as a possible play. Let me just see what he's done here. Sorry. Not sure why he got pulled in, but I guess he was a guy that I was looking at from a possible value play. Somebody you could definitely think of. This is kind of a track that fits him. Just a total side note. All right, I'm back on the Corn Ferry, guys. Paul Barjon, a French. Hit a T4 here recently at Nationwide. I wouldn't say the best recent results from a Corn Ferry perspective. He was a top 15 out for the season. I do remember that. The events he has played, Bent is his best surface. Let's go see some of his best finishes. So he had a win back in May on the Corn Ferry, had some seconds back in 2020, a fourth here recently at the Nationwide. And then the Canadian Open, he had a 20th. See what PG had. The Barbasol here recently had a 42nd. Miscut at the U.S. Open. Miscut at the U.S. Open, so he must qualify as amateur status. And then the Valero, way back in 2019, he missed a cut. So the Frenchman, not a ton of information there for you. And if I had to give my rating, if I was going to play him or not, just looking at recent, I mean, he has a T4 very recently, but overall, the body of work, I'd probably give it like a 4 or 5. So I'd probably maybe stick a little away. Cameron Young, he's got 3 missed cuts and a T10 and a 32. I'm more just interested to look at these guys. And again, a lot of these guys are new to me, just to see what they've done when they've had their chances on the PGA. So he had a couple wins. He was running pretty hot here in May. Back-to-back wins on the Corn Ferry, so that's interesting. Had a 5th in June. He had a 10th at the Nationwide. And then let's just go see miscut at the U.S. Open. And then he tried the Farmers. He had a miscut. Way back 2019, miscut the U.S. Open. So, again, not a whole lot on Mr. Cameron Young. David Lipsky, we've actually seen him a bit on the PGA Tour. Don't know for 100%, we'll have to go look, but he might have had his card and lost it. No tournament history here. He did get to play the Travelers. He had a miscut. He had a T4. He withdrew from the Corn Ferry. I have no idea why. So I would not pretend like I do. I don't know if it was injury or something else. Let's go look at Mr. Lipsky's best finishes. So he won the San Antonio Challenge back in 2020. I also think Luke List, for whatever reason, won that when he went down and played a Corn Ferry event. His best finish recently would have been MGM Resorts back in April, and then he had a second, so he had a nice little run in April. So he did show up at the Palmetto here recently back in June. He ended up with an 8th. The WGC Mexico, this would be the one in Chapultepec. So that's a tough track. So he gets some props for that. At a 10th. Again, I'm just looking at, again, he played, that would be the one at Concession, but he made the cut. Made the cut at the Memorial back in 2019. And then again, back at the Chapultepec, he made the cut, a 48th. And then you could see, yeah, so back in the day where he had his card, had some decent, well, not decent, but, I guess some relevant. Maybe he didn't have his card. I'm just trying to think of these WGC events. Neither here or there. He does have PGA experience. And if I was going to take a flyer on one of these guys, I would, put him above probably a lot of them. I'd give him like an 8 out of 10 from a rostering perspective. You got Aaron Rye, who I think, and again, off the top of my head, I think he came over from the European Tour and then maybe took the Corn Ferry route. Let me see what events he's played in. I should probably have known this. So yeah, he's shown up on some WGC events, so that reeks of the European Tour. I'm pretty sure he's a European Tour player, then played the Corn Ferry this year. Anyway, so his best finish, so he had his second at the Boise in August. Couple of WGC events he's done pretty well. That would be the one at Concession in Florida. He had an 18th. He showed up. Showed up at the Open just here recently, the British Open in July at a 19th. So that's about all the data I got on Aaron Rye. I think, again, I would rate him with David Lipsky a higher rating, again, like a 7 or 8. If you want a guy that can get you a cut and maybe pop for a top 20. Chad Ramey, he was one of the top 15 guys off the Corn Ferry. You can see good results over the last 4 events. And let's go just take a quick look at Chad Ramey. Nothing from a putting split, so I guess he's never played a PGA event. Or we have no stroke gain. So he played Sanderson Farms. Again, tough track. 2018, he made the cut. And St. Jude way back in 2015. I guess that was some kind of sponsor exemption. Maybe he's local there. But he won Corn Ferry the Main back in June, and then had a couple good finishes back in 2020. Had a fourth here recently, the Pinnacle Bank. Had a seventh at Boise, so he's had some good recent results. And then just recently 11th at the Corn Ferry Championship. An 11th. I like a little Chad Ramey. What projected ownership is 4? So yeah, I'd rank him like an 8 or 9 out of 10 if you wanted to play one of these Corn Ferry guys. Sathith. Actually played here back in 2021. Had a T14. That's why I'm clicking at it. I just see these guys. I have seen Sathith in a few PGA events. Let's go look at him, see what we know. So POA is a positive putting surface when he has some stroke gain data. Let's go look at some of his best finish. So he had a 4th here recently at the Nationwide in August. He had a 6th at the Corn Ferry back in April. He had a 9th in a Corn Ferry event. And then he showed up, he played the Memorial, had a 32nd. So again, Murfield, tough track. So that's a good one. Barbasol had a 37th. The Genesis at the Riviera back in 2017, he made the cut. He has some missed cuts here recently in PGA events. So the Charles Schwab, which Sanderson Farms, U.S. Open. That one, you know, Charles Schwab. I mean, Colonials. I don't know. I mean, I could see it. I could see missing a cut there. It's not, but it, you know, it's actually wouldn't be even a bad comparable course to what we're talking about here. Very kind of old school. He also missed a cut at the Rocket Mortgage. So there's some dings there. I think I'd pass on Sathith for me. But you know, some decent recent form. So, but yeah, just my own opinion. Just not enough when he's had the opportunities. You got Dylan Wu. Let's go take a look at him. I think you got a Brandon Wu and a Dylan Wu. So let's just go see what we can find out with this guy. All right, so he won the Price Cutter back in July on the Corn Ferry. And he had some really nice showings back in 2020. His next best showing was in June. The BMW Charity had a 13th, had a 15th at the Main, a 16th at the Boise. Let's see here, the Advent. So let's just go look. The U.S. Open, he made the cut, had a 31st. So that's pretty good. That was the recent U.S. Open. And that would be at Torrey. Just have to make sure I am correct. So that's a California. So that's pretty interesting. Shriners with the other. So yeah, I mean, Dylan Wu, I'd give him a 6 or 7 odds of making the cut out of 10. Justin Lower, he's got some crazy birdies going on here. I don't know what that's pulling from. Pretty decent recent results. And again, what I'm kind of looking for is what they've done on the PGA Tour when they've had their chance. Looks like the putter has been a little suspicious when he has had his chance. Had some good showings in June. Well, at least recently in June. He won 2nd place at the BMW Charity. And I'm just going to scroll through. So he showed up at the Wells Fargo way back in 2017. Tough track. He had a 59th. And then RSM Memorial way back. So really not enough to really go on. I mean, you could just kind of point to, I guess. What's else? Let me look at date wise. I just want to see. So you had a 15th, a 45th, a 32nd. I mean, nothing that screams that you have to play this guy. I'll just put it that way. That's the simplest way we're gonna put it. Let's look at Mr. Smotherman. And again, what I want to look for is what they've done when they've had their opportunity on the PGA. So he did win back in May. Had a 4th back in July. And have you done? And he's the one time he's ever played a PGA event. He missed the cut, but that's way back in 2017 at the Byron. Okay. Taylor Moore. You can see now, this is where you can look and go, all right, you know, from a recent result on the Corn Ferry, 2 top 10s, a win, and a 2nd. Just from a Corn Ferry perspective, that gets me a little more interested. But let's go see what else he's done. So yeah, you had a win in July, a second in July, so you kind of hit a little hot streak here. You had a third in June. So some pretty decent. And then what has he done on the PGA? Played at Sanderson Farms. He made the cut back in 2017 again. It's kind of funny. Some of these guys, a lot of them have played the Sanderson Farms. And then Shriners in the Canadian Open, he missed a cut. So really, this would be a pure recent form, but it looks good. So I mean, I'd give him 7 or 8 if I was going to play one of these the Corn Ferry guys. Mr. Andrew Novak, nothing really to write home about under recent, and we'll just go real quick see if he's played anything on the PGA. So he played the Greenbrier back in 2019 and made the cut, and you know that's what the old TPC White old course where Neiman's got a win a couple years ago. I would guess that'd be the same year. I'm just curious. A military tribute, yeah, Joaquin Neiman. And he had Hoagie in English. All right. So you can give that as a notch. The Honda PGA National, he made the cut. That's pretty impressive. And then he missed the cut at Shriners and RSM a while back, but that's 2 pretty tough tracks and pretty decent recent form on the Corn Ferry. So Andrew Nowak might be someone you want to roster. Now, not amazing over here, but you know, could be a sneaky play. You know, he's made a couple cuts on some tough tracks. Davis Riley, recent results, had a miscut, and then I don't know, the Boise and the Pinnacle, okay. Let's go see Mr. Davis Riley. So that's Poa here is his best putting surface when he has played on the PGA Tour, because that's the only time we'd actually see it. And you can see he's had some recent PGA experience here. So he missed a cut at the Pro-Am, had a 58th, missed a cut at Sanderson Farms. So he won, like I said, in July. He won back in February, but that was 2020. I took that back. And then let's just go see. So he played the Byron Nelson. He had a 29th back in 2019. Played Sanderson Farms. So back in 2009, made the cuts, both of those. The Barbasol recently had a 58th. So made the cut on both of his appearances in 2021. Made the cut barely at the RSM, and then missed cut at the AT&T Pro-Am. Missed cut at Center, so kind of a, I don't know. I mean, the U.S. Open, I would just write that off. That's no shocker. You got guys as top 20 in the world that missed a cut there. Maybe not a bad play. So Davis Riley, I would give him recent form. I know he's got this miscut here, but I don't know, a 7 or 8 out of 10 that I'd play him. And again, a large GPP DraftKings perspective. Joshua Creel had a win at Utah. Some decent recent form. Let's go see what he's done, if anything, on the PGA. So yeah, he had a 2nd in June, an 8th place. I'm sorry, a 1 in August. Most recent, an 8th at the Corn Ferry Championship in September. He had a 10th at Nationwide. And then he made the cut at the Valero with the one time back in 2018. And that's it. So, I don't know. Not enough there for me. But again, I mean, hey, you know, it's going to be a little bit of a crapshoot if you play these guys either way. But I'd give him like a 5 or 6 out of 10 that I'd play him. Lee Hodges had his good Corn Ferry showing, so that must have been enough to get him up and over to make the top 25. He also had a win back in August of 2020. That's his only win. Played the Barbasol at a 53rd RSM. He made the cut. Missed the cut at the U.S. Open. I'm going to say pass on Lee Hodges. That's my own personal opinion on that one. Hayden Buckley's been showing some pretty good recent form on the at the Corn Ferry. Let's go take a look here. So he won the Lecombe Suncoast in February. Had a 2nd back in August. A 4th here very recently. A 7th. So yeah, good recent form on Corn Ferry. Has he done anything when he's come over? So again, Sanderson Farms, man, they must give so many open bids to these guys for Sanderson Farms. Um, he made the cut, but nothing to write home about. Played the Honda. Uh, Again, from a stroke, is saying that he made the cut, but barely. That was back in March. Also, some crazy wind. So I don't know. If you make the cut at the Honda at PGA National, especially with the weather I know we had there, good for him. So I'll give that as a pretty solid positive. Hayden Buckley, you might want to play just from a recent form. I would go with that. And Brandon Wu, there was a lot touted about Brandon Wu, but I'm not seeing nothing too recently that I'm that excited about. Let's go take a look at Mr. Brandon Wu. So back in 2020, so this must have been, yeah, I think there was some buzz last year in August. He won the Corn Ferry Championship. Let's go look at more. I mean, more recently, the best would be a 7th back in February. And a 7th back in May. Okay, so that's his best 2 finishes. Corn Ferry at a 10th back in May. Then let's look at, so the Houston Open, I think this is where I think he came on a lot of people's radar. He had a 17th. Again, pretty tough track. 2019. Made the cut at the U.S. Open again in 2019. So that's, some props there. A 38th at the AT&T Pro-Am back in 2020. Made the cut at the Farmers. Miscut here recently. Miscut, but that I wouldn't count that against him. Miscut at the Workday. That was at Murfield. So that's one where you could look at Brandon Wu and go, you know what? When you had your appearances, you did make some out back in 2020, but as in recent form, I would, for me, I'm going to put thumbs down. But he does have some PGA experience. All right, just 2 guys left, and then we'll get off the Corn Ferry guys. But again, I'm just doing this for both of us. Really, I'm kind of walking through this exercise for both sides. So McGreevy had a T8 recently, but a couple missed cuts. So I wouldn't say there's enough there from a Corn Ferry side to get me super excited. Let's click on. So he won the Price Cutter, but that was in 2020. Back in March, he had a 2nd at the Club Car. In June, he had a 3rd at the BMW Championship or Charity. Again, the 8th recently. It could have been what pushed him over to make the top 25. He had a 10th at the Emerald Coast in April. And then he's never played in a PGA event. So that right there would give me thumbs down. He's never played in one PGA event. You never know. And then this guy, Jared Wolf, I mean, he had this T2, so he had to do more than that to make it through, unless he was like literally the 25th guy in. Let's go look. All right, so he had a win in 2020. So he had a 2nd here in August, and he had a 6th in July. He had a 15th in July. He had a 30th at the Rex. And did he do any? He has never been on a PGA Tour event. Okay, so those 2 guys, forget about them. All right, that kind of going to wrap up. I just wanted to kind of go through that with you guys. I gave you my top 5 value plays. Let's go over those again just so you have those, because I did not summarize. Oh, and I'm not showing them. Well, I can tell you who they were. So let's do it this way. To summarize, I got Sam Ryder is a top value play. Bo Hogue, Cameron Percy, Hank Laboda, and Ryan Armour. That was my top 5 value plays, just again to remind you guys, because we're kind of a little different than usual. All right, let's go jump over to weather real quick, just so you know. So again, I give this to you guys. If you're doing Showdown, of course, you're going to want to use Wind Finder. Atlas Peak is actually the closest point to pull from Silverado in Napa, California. We're going to want to look over here. Honestly, it's September in Napa, California. I mean, the weather should be great. You can see perfect on Thursday. That's going to come into play on my PrizePicks. Just note to self, but perfect weather conditions. Perfect weather conditions, I think, as far as I'm concerned, on Friday. Maybe the afternoon wind gets a little gusty on Saturday is showing. And then maybe a little wind in the afternoon again. But, I mean, nothing to really cause any problems. So, from a weather perspective, everything looks great. But keep an eye on it if you're doing Showdown. Nothing to worry about AM, PM splits or nothing like that. the weather looks really good, especially Thursday, Friday, and even Saturday, Sunday. Just a little breeze might kick up. Let's go talk ownership projections. One of the things that you guys, I'm sure, are most interested in. I've got this from highest to lowest, so we're gonna kind of go through this. So, funny enough, John Rahm, even being priced at 12,000, but I think there's enough guys that people feel comfortable that they can kind of build their teams out as they go, even with the 7,000. So he right now has 40% ownership. So with that said, John Rahm will be a pure fade for me. If he, like I said, I went on the narrative of maybe a little bit of vacation for him, and then also the Ryder Cup going on, and then again, an easier course will tend to kind of skew where John Rahm has some elite capabilities with the ball striking with the hybrids and the higher irons. But there's not going to be as much as that needed here. So again, I'm going to pass on Rahm. Everything else, the guy is just playing unreal. Will I sprinkle if I play a ton of GPP large game? Yes, I'm going to have some Rahm. But will he be my main ownership point? I already mentioned, kind of Webb is where I'm going to fall to there, and even with that kind of ownership. If somehow Rahm missed the cut or gets hurt or whatever. Again, why I'm shocked he's playing in this event before the Ryder Cup. 40% ownership for a GPP play. I got to be on. Sebastian Munoz. I've never ever seen Sebastian Munoz at 23% ownership. That's crazy. So from a GPP play, I will fade Munoz. Webb Simpson, of course, are one of my picks. Yeah, I'd almost rather go with over Munoz, but I guess the ownership price, you're saving $800. Ches Reavie, one of my picks, is up there too. The Hoffman, again, shows up that he can play, but again, I'd rather probably play Pat Perez. I think they're kind of similar guys, pretty decent tee to green. It's just who's going to have the better putter, and Pat Perez has shown here he can definitely get the putting done. $9,100 HV3, no thank you, but he's at 16% ownership. The Gem Reaper, actually one of my first times I ever picked him. Emiliano Grillo's popping up there, kind of higher ownership. Just trying to see. Mito Puro, one of my picks. You got that. There's one of your Corn Ferry guys, 11%. And some of these guys, I'm sure, probably were mentioned on Pat Mayo. That will get ownership up there. No shocking. Adam Svensson, one of my picks, Canadian guy, especially from a showdown play. I like him. Jason Duffner has actually not been playing. I think he was also a guy I was looking at. So another value play that you could plug in. I like Duffner. Duff Daddy has been playing pretty decent golf, and this course kind of fits him. He's a disastrous putter, but if he gets hot with a putter, which he has shown some life, Fratelli, was one of my favorite bets. Again, length, and he does hit his, wedges pretty well. Max Homa, California guy who does well over here. So, a little bit of ownership on him. Luke List, again, fits that bomb it and pretty elite with the irons, but, it's just a putter. Hideki Matsuyama, no love at 11,000 for Hideki. So there's your pivot. You could definitely pivot, I would say, from Munoz to Hideki. Pretty close. Not exact in price, but pretty close. Where the heck was that at? Sorry about that. Yeah, I guess, okay, $2,000, so not really close. Leishman, now there would be a differentiation. For $9,500, I'm not really sure how they justify putting Leishman. I get the field is pretty weak, but there's no way I would pay $9,500 for Leishman. I like Bramlett. He's one of my picks. Kazire, he's been my brokeback pick all year. Maybe this is a spot, man. It's just off the tee with him. Everything else has been pretty solid. He's actually been hitting. So his approach from like 100, 125, less than 100 has been ridiculously good. So this could be his week. I've got a bet on him. I don't think I picked him in my top 15, but definitely I'll be sprinkling him in. Kyle Stanley, again, just he is literally the worst putter on tour. So I wouldn't, if the putter goes away, he could go. Side note, Russell Knox actually shot, I think I mentioned this in the preview show, shot a 63 here, round one last year. So something to think about for a showdown play, but not a terrible play here. He can go low. Ryan Armour was one of my picks. Let's see if we get like really low in ownership. You got the Dwally Vanderwalt. There's my Lipsky. So there you go. So there's gonna be some of those guys. So these guys with stars, right, are the Corn Ferry guys. So you can just kind of see really crazy low ownership. And if you remember who I think Pendrith was already picked, but there was other guys that I mentioned. I think Nate Lashley could definitely be a sneaky play. I mentioned him from a betting perspective. I'm going to have some Nate Lashley. Mark him down. I just, again, so many things are pointing. I put a bet on him and also put him down as a value play, man. I like him. I also will probably even play him in Showdown. All right, all the rest are zeroed out. I mean, so you can get a lot of leverage. I'm just trying to see. Let me see if there's one guy that stands out that's 0% projected ownership right now that I would say yay. Bah, 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 bah. Austin Cook showed up a couple. This course could fit him. Sun Kang could show up here. There, Justin or Jahan, right? I think he was a Monday qualifier. Andrew Putnam, I actually put a bet on. Had a decent showing here previously. Let me go look at Andrew Putnam real quick. Why was I thinking Andrew Putnam? Okay, so Poa is his best putting surface, and that's what he does very well, elite. I think he had a good showing, what was it, the Barracuda, right? Which doesn't show up on here. So some people are going to miss that. So Andrew Putnam had a chance to win the Barracuda. Ended up in second behind EVR. So there's a little inside scooper for you. If you missed my preview show, I talked about that. Just trying to see where he's had some of his best finishes. Best finish this year was at the Puerto Rico. So that doesn't really help. The Amex back in 2020, there, something you could hang a little bit at the Travelers. So there's, hey, I see no reason why. Let me see what he's been doing with his driver. So you see, typically he's okay once he gets off the tee. So let's do this. That's not going to help us. So recent with the driver, he did gain a little at the Wyndham, but lost with the putter, which is not very Andrew Putnam like. The Travelers was his last best kind of showing. But the Barracuda, again, something you can hang your hat on recently. Okay, enough about ownership. I think you got the gist that these top guys here are your highly owned, and you could try to pivot, especially from these top three. And Webb, it was kind of funny. I actually, where's Will Z at in here? Hold on a second here. Zalatoris. So he's only at 10% ownership. I mean, you could start a lot of your builds at Will Z. I like Will Z this week. Just an idea if you want to get a little differentiation. All right, let's go talk about PrizePicks. Okay, so again, I mentioned check these guys out. This is a over/under. It's a lot simpler way, man. If you're looking to make some actual cash, instead of taking the long shots at the lotteries, this is a good place, to double your money or 10x your money. I highly recommend. Again, this is a projections, and I'm giving you guys my expert projections here, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going with these. So I'm not just picking names. All right, so here you go. What we're going with is I'm going with 4 guys that I'm picking out of here. So you go to here, PrizePicks, enter Golf Guru. You're going to get 100% match up to $100. Click on PGA, and what you're going to want to go to is not single stats, but fantasy score. The guys who set these lines, this is a soft line. And it's not all the players. They kind of pick like 20 guys. But let's talk about John Rahm. All right, so they got him at 68. So he needs to shoot 68 or better. This is what Rahm's done over his last 8 rounds. And this is playing at the FedEx and also the Opens and the US Open. So over the FedEx, he went 65, 64, 63. And then at the Open, where he had that rough round, he had a 71, but it's still a 71 at the Open. Then he had a 66, and then he had a 69 at the US Open. Again, much tougher, and a 69. But if you look at his last 3 rounds, first, I'm talking, this is round 1. The guy's been averaging a 64. So, yeah, I'm going to take the under on Rahm. Let's talk about Kevin Na. I'm taking the under on him. They got him set at 70. He was 66 round 1. Again, this is the FedEx playoffs, a 72 and a 67. So, if you average that out, okay, we'll just say he's 69 if you want. I mean, but it's actually averages out to like a 68. And then at the Open, he had a 68, and then a 67, a 67, a 67. The guy in first round, I mean, it's not too hard to figure out. What is that? 7 rounds. His last 7 rounds, he's averaged around a 67 under, or I'm sorry, 67. So again, yeah, no brainer. Now again, it's Kevin Na, but he has been super in Fuego hot. And then I'm going to talk about the last, and then I'll talk about my over. But because you do have to play one over if you do the 4 pick. My next guy is Mad McNeely. They got him at 71. Again, par 72 course, 4 par 5s. I see 5 to 6. There's for sure 5 birdie chances, but there's really 6. So 6 good opportunities, but just all the par 5s are birdie chance. So again, I think it's a very soft line. So you guys need to get on this. Mad McNeely, first round, over his last, let me see here, what would this be? Last 7 rounds, a 69, a 69, a 67, a 67, a 71, a 68, and a 65. The 65 was at Travelers, a good comparable course. So I'm all over Mag McNeely going under. And then really I was between Siwoo Kim, who is at a 70.5, but they got Griot at a 70. Now, yes, he's won at this course back when there was not cell phones, but let's go take a look at Griot, why I'm going to go with the over. They got him set at 70. All right. So Griot, over his last, this is his first rounds over like his last 8 rounds. So he had a 67. All right, he's under. He had a 70. So you would, that's even dead, 67. And then he went 74, 70, 74, 74, 71. We average that out. That is over a 70 for first round score. Now, let's go take this a little further. Griot is a terrible putter to begin with, but his worst putting surface is POA. Even though amazing enough, way back in 2014, he won here at this course. And then let's go look at recent first round scores at this tournament at Silverado for the Safeway. All right, last year he came out and shot a 69. All right, so that's 100. You'd lose there. Then he shot a 71 in 2020, so we're good there, and he missed the cut. 2019, he shot a 72. Again, this first round, ended up in 41st. And then in 2018, he had a 67. So if you kind of take that for first rounds at this track and leverage that out, it's around a 70.5. So again, everything is telling me that Griot. So if you're going to go with the overs, I like Griot or Siwoo as the overs, but I ended up on Griot. I then go over here and you make that picks, and then I go with the power play, which gets me that 10x. I'm putting $100 on this baby. Boom, I'm placing the entry. And wait a minute. Projections have, whoa, that's BS. Okay, so I ended up getting it in, and long story short, funny enough, they actually changed the projections. So literally I picked those picks earlier today, and then within, I don't know, it's been about an hour, I think they got a little win that their projections were super soft. They're still good. I'm still good with Rom under 68.5. I'm still good that Griot could definitely shoot over 70 his first round here. Now they moved it. I think he was at 70, so now he's got to shoot a 69. I have no problem there. And then Mad McNeely was at 71. They moved it down a half stroke, so he's got to shoot a 70. So long story short, I think it's still good. Go with those picks, and we should be fine. Okay, let's wrap this thing up. Okay, so again, that is my Before the Lock show. Everything I think you need to get that edge in DFS. Also, I hope with the PrizePicks it works out. Like I said, it's crazy literally in between as I've already had my picks and actually locked them in that they changed the little bit of line, but it's nothing to worry about. I still like what we got going on there. There's a lot of birdie opportunities out there. So again, if you getting value from this, you like what I'm doing, hey, click that like button. It means the world to me, and share it with somebody else that might get some value out of this. As always, subscribe. I need to keep growing the subscribe base for me to keep putting this content effort out there. And right now we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We're getting close. So do me the honor of clicking the subscribe button. I put out 3 shows a week, a lot of free value content that you're getting. And just if you take my PrizePicks right now, you would already be 3 out of 4 10x winners. And hit me up if I can help you. Anything on YouTube comments or on Twitter at DFS Golf Guru. And have a great Fortinet Championship and enjoy the football. And I will talk to you guys on Monday.